Welcome to another out of spec detailing video, and you join me here at Clear Detailing, and we are working on a Porsche Cayman GTS. And in the last video, we removed all of the clear brows. So this vehicle had a full body wrap. If you didn't have that video checked out yet, I may recommend you go look at that so you can see where we are in this stage. But as we sit, we've removed all of the adhesive and all of the film from the vehicle, and we are gonna get right into the wash process. So we're gonna get this prepped right now, and then we will start paint correcting this. Now, I do wanna make a note that when the installers originally installed the film on the last, or on this vehicle at the original date, they didn't prep it very well. So we have a lot of swirl marks underneath here. Definitely some I put in from removing adhesive. That's very, very common. But we're gonna get this thing dialed in and looking spectacular. Okay, so we're ready to start the wash process here. And before I get into foaming the vehicle, I always like to do a quick rinse all over the car just to get any of that initial layer off. And then we'll foam down the car. Now, a quick note about the foam. What I've done with this, since we still have a little bit of sticky adhesive, just maybe residue anywhere, I put some all-purpose cleaner. I use a light dilution of Simple Green actually in this. I find it's a very good effective cleaner on all vehicles. But what we're gonna do is just start with a rinse. We'll get it foamed down and do a nice hand wash on this, just getting the surface nice and clean and prepped for buffing. Note, normally I would start off washing the wheels. What I've kind of found in the detailing process and what I like to do is to get the car prepped, do the actual paint correction in the bay here, and then I come back and when I re-rinse the car, because I always re-rinse it, we have compound dust just kind of strewn all over the car. So then I like to clean the wheels. And these actually in particular, we're gonna be removing off the vehicle, ceramic coating those as well. So I'm gonna leave those alone for right now because otherwise I'm gonna be causing myself more work down the road. I'm gonna be cleaning the wheels multiple times to get the compound dust off. Now you can do that with car covers, specifically for wheels, which I have done. I just find that this process is probably about the easiest way to go. So we're gonna keep rolling here and get this thing washed up. This is just the coolest viewpoint, isn't it? So we're on top of the mezzanine right now while this kind of dwells on the paint. Now, especially on a vehicle like this, the panels aren't necessarily gonna be clean, but I really wanna foam it down and get it washed properly just to ensure we got all of the adhesive off. Now, I'm gonna let this dwell for a while because I added Simple Green into my actual foam. That's gonna help just get all of that little residual residue off. So we're probably gonna let this dwell for another couple of minutes. I'll refoam it and start the hand washing process. Washed down and mostly dry. I say mostly dry because what we're gonna do now is take the heated and filtered air dryer to blow out all these seams. Now you can do that with an air compressor as well. I just prefer the heated and filtered so we're not blowing debris at the vehicle to get all of the water out of there. Even areas around like here under the spoiler, that holds a lot of water. Every single little jam just holds so much water. Now, after that, we're gonna pull the vehicle outside And you know, it's about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and we're gonna have full sun on this so we can really see exactly how the paint looks. And that's important because I want to show you guys how bad this paint actually looks. It looks great on camera, right? And it actually looks pretty decent just looking at it, you know, under these amazing lights here. But under sunlight, looks terrible. These guys, when they put on the original clear bra, they did not prep it properly. So many swirl marks. I would imagine that this car had never been buffed from the factory, so we may find some sanding marks, rotary marks that were from the factory that may still be present. So I'm gonna jump right into it here and we'll get it pulled outside. So here we are outside in the blazing hot sun, 95-degree day again here in Colorado. Already starting to see a few little sanding nibs and marks right there. And as I pull you over to the spoiler, check out all those holograms, rotary marks, swirls, scratches, everything. Wow. I know the taillights, I had looked at those before, were pretty darn bad. But as we just kind of walk around this, just seeing quite a few scratches here and there. I would say, funny enough, the hood is kind of the worst. I mean, these quarter panels don't look terribly bad, but as I pull you around here, look at right around the sun, all those swirl marks, deep scratches. They shouldn't actually be super deep, but definitely are going to take some compounding and buffing to properly remove. You know, I would say, though, for a car being of this age, a couple years old, this definitely wasn't polished before the film went on, so it doesn't look too bad. I mean, normal cars of this age, you'd see them probably go through a brush car wash and have paint that looks like it's about as dull as can be. This actually in the sun just looks absolutely stunning. So I'm going to be excited to get this fully paint corrected, get all of those little imperfections out. Now, I did definitely see some areas I missed with the adhesive. So we still got a little bit there. Nothing too crazy. I can get that fixed before I start buffing on it. Definitely some good scratches here on the roof as well. So yeah, generally not too bad. But definitely was going to take some work to get the paint looking proper. I would bet some of these scratches are a little on the deeper side. Now we'll have to figure out our ideal pad and compound configuration, and that is with every car. So I'm going to run through that with you guys and show you kind of from a detailer's perspective how I get into that, how I pick my pads, how I pick exactly how the compounding process is going to be, because it's not the same for every car. Some paint is hard, some is super soft. Knowing Porsche, this is probably right in between, which is kind of best case scenario. It normally cuts pretty quickly, but finishes out very nice. So I'm going to pull it back into the shop. We got to play magical cars again, as always, here at the detail shop. But we'll get it put up in the actual compounding detail bay and getting this baby looking proper. Okay, so now that we've got the car pulled back into the bay, we're going to start with this, and this is paint depth gauge. This is extremely important, especially on a car like this. I don't know the history on this car, kind of like most cars that come through here, but I want to ensure that we have enough paint to do the paint correction process. So let's get right in here So in the middle of the hood, 4.5 mils, 4.64, 4.5, 4.6, 4.8. So we're looking pretty consistent on the hood here, which is great to see. So let's check out the rear panel here. So we're about 4.6 to 4.8 mils on the hood, very consistent. Now if we pull it in here, 5.9, pretty high, 5.6, 5.6, very consistent. Now a new panel, 4.5, 4.7, 4.6. So again, reasonably consistent. I haven't seen anything so far that jumps out at me and goes, okay, this is an issue. So that's good case. Now, next process is we're gonna get right into the actual paint correction detailing phase of this. Very quickly off camera, I just went around, did some more measurements, and did come to the conclusion that we have no repainted panels, which is always fantastic, and we have very consistent panels. I would bet that this car has not yet ever been touched with a buffer other than from the factory. I showed you some of those marks on the spoiler there. Now, as far as Porsche paint, I'm pretty used to working on it. I've worked on quite a few 911s, Cayennes, all the kind of range of Porsche before. I've worked on this specific color on quite a few 911s. And just from a general standard, I would say that Porsche paint is kind of in between the soft and hard with some caveats. One caveat being non-metallic black, like this spoiler. I've had a lot of extremely soft paint with the non-metallic black from Porsche. Most of their other ones, in particular like this, it'll be curious to see exactly how this reacts, but are typically on the kind of medium softness and hardness, meaning that I can cut the paint relatively quick. So cutting as in compounding it, removing defects, removing scratches. And then when I go to finish the paint, it's relatively easy to get all the DA haze and just get a beautiful finish on the car. So what we're gonna do right now, I'm gonna get the car wiped down with isopropyl alcohol just to get any of these little, I guess they're kind of glue residue from the film left over that may have missed or whatever. And then we're gonna go into the compounding section. Okay, so we're ready to go, starting the paint correction phase. Now, off camera on this side over here, I've got two pads with my compound already primed on there. That needs to probably be its own video alone to talk about priming pads and why that's good and what that helps with. Now here I've got my blowout station, so I actually blow out the pads every time to control the residue coming off of the vehicle into the pad, and that goes in here. This, again, too, probably needs its own video of how I've created this and why I use this trash can, essentially. Just for the basics of that, there's water in here. I normally spray down the walls, blow the compound into there, so it's not going absolutely everywhere over the shop. We still get a lot of dusting off the compounding phase, which is why I always wash the car afterwards. Now, just quickly talking through what I'm gonna do here, I always start on the passenger hood. I just have always done that since day one of detailing. So I've got CarPro Ultra Cut compound, which is pretty heavy to start with, but inspecting the paint, I think that's gonna be ideal. Now, if I do a test spot here and I don't love the results, what I'm gonna do is start mixing compounds, maybe even switch compounds. A lot of the times I'll mix them to get a desired result. If I need more cut, less cut, if it's kind of gumming up, because the compounds are not all created equal, which is why having a wide selection is so, so important. So let's jump right into it here. I'm gonna hit this little section. Probably do what I typically start with is 3 passes. So if we consider a pass, we go up and down, left to right, up and down, finish. We're gonna wipe it off and check our results. Okay, so right off the bat, let's take a little bit of 50-50. So it looks decently good until we kind of get over in this corner. There's quite a few deeper scratches in this, and one of the first things I'm noticing is not a lot of haze. There is a little bit, but I would kind of classify this paint as more hard than soft, which is kind of interesting because I've definitely worked with Porsche paint before in this exact color. And what I would tell you guys is kind of surprising. So we're not getting a ton of DA haze. So if it was a soft paint, this would look very hazy, but most of these scratches would be out. So what we're gonna probably end up doing is start mixing compounds. Now, I could probably get the result I'm looking for by doing 3 passes like I did, blowing the pad out, applying more compound to it, doing another 3 passes, and it'd probably look good. But if I can mix my compounds and get us to the point where we can do only 3 passes with mixing more aggressive compounds, it's gonna save us time. I got a new section done here. So you'll notice this smaller section I did compared to over here. So a quick before and after. So this is the paint before. Notice lots of pretty darn deep scratches in here. Now, if I bring you guys over here again, this was our CarPro Ultra Cut on a Meguiar's 3-inch cutting disc. Microfiber that is. And then this is my mixed compound. So what I'm mixing here is CarPro Clear Cut, or I'm sorry, CarPro Ultra Cut and Meguiar's M110, and getting the exact results we want within 3 passes. So if I were to stick with this single compound, it's gonna take me twice the amount of work as this. Now, I do wanna say we've got slightly, ever so slightly more haze in this, but we're using more compound. I bumped up the speed a little bit, and yeah, these are the results we're looking for. After we get this entire car compounded, we're gonna rewash it and then we'll polish it to get all that little haze. But look at how pretty the metallic is in this car. Absolutely love it. Okay, so this right here is one of the really nasty sections, and I've got the light on here. I'm gonna compound this section. I'm thinking I'm probably gonna have to do some multiple passes just because of how severe this is. We've got the other half of the hood done, and I love how that's looking so far, but I'm gonna show you real time here how this looks. So actually what I'd say was that was pretty darn good for the most part. Now I'm gonna come in and refine right around the emblem a little bit more. And I know you guys will say, well, why didn't you tape that off? With the 3-inch, I can get so tight into here that I'm not gonna be touching this and potentially damaging it. But that was 3 quick passes. Now, I do want you guys to note that this is getting a little hazy. So as I get more and more compound on here, this is, like I was talking about earlier, hard versus soft. I'm starting to kind of change my opinion a little bit that the first compound alone wasn't cutting enough. So when we started mixing them, this is kind of trending more towards the medium side. So it's finding the right approach to, especially a vehicle like this with some deep scratches. But again, not worried about any of this haze around here, but we got most of the deep scratches. I'm gonna come in, refine right around there, and this is gonna look perfect. All right, so wanted to quickly pull you in here. Got it all corrected around the emblem, looking absolutely stunning. Got all of those deep scratches out. it helps to have that 3" just to get in those really tight areas. I use the 21 millimeter Rupes with a 6" disc. I guess it's technically 7, but quick note, so notice how that front edge, that leading edge of the hood still has some scratches on it. Well, this hood and bumper don't exactly fit properly, so the hood is actually lower than the front bumper. So what I'm gonna do here, I'll pop the hood and quickly hit that leading edge with the 3" and get those all refined right there. But very, very happy so far with how the paint is looking here. Notice still a little bit hazy, but yeah, we're gonna get this refined and show you a quick 50-50. Get all those scratches now looking proper. And again, the clarity will come back after we polish it. So looking good so far. Gonna keep hammering away here and get this paint looking proper. Okay, so I've been working around the car and been seeing a few things like this, and I'm finally able to get it on camera here. Now, notice this line right above my finger. Hopefully the camera stays focused. Right above my finger, and especially right in here. Also notice that right there. That is cut paint, and that is really sad, extremely unfortunate. Wow, I mean, look at the cut mark on that. That is so sad. So what is this cut mark from? Well, this car was bulk installed film. So bulk install is essentially when you take a big sheet, mold it to the car, and you cut afterwards. Now, good installers are not cutting your film. They're scoring about 90% of the film, and then it's able to be torn. What's happened here is they've cut through the film because their knife techniques are not how they should be. So guys, public service announcement, when you are getting clear bra, either look for guys who install pre-cut kits. Now there's some negatives to that. I will absolutely say that in the first place. But if you have a slip up and just not great installers, you're gonna have stuff like this. I'm gonna show you guys more and more of this as we go around the car. The really unfortunate thing is I can't buff those out because they just go straight through the clear and into the paint. They're just too deep. So these forever, unfortunately, live in the vehicle. And it just breaks my heart, honestly, to see this as a detailer. It's so frustrating. Highlighting here more just, yeah, terrible work. So I'm buffing this little section here, and notice this line right above my fingertip, more cut marks. Now this one is extremely deep. As I bring the light in here, you can see how that just highlights that. And the compound, yes, is highlighting that a little bit, so be mindful of that. I mean, even right in here, we've got a cut mark here. It's hard to capture on here, but on both of these panels, it continues that way. So yeah, guys, it is so, so sad to see this. You know, talking through this, the only real option would be to go after the old shop if you really wanted to press the issue. The likelihood is the installer who did this is probably not installing film anymore, at least I hope not, or this shop is out of business, and yeah. Okay, so we're on day 2 right now, and we're gonna keep paint correcting the Cayman here. So one of the worst areas was this spoiler. Tons of holograms in it, pretty deep scratches. So let's get right into this and get this looking proper. So you'll notice on that 6" pad on this is a very contoured shape. So what I'm gonna need to do now is take the 3" and come in here and get all this little contoured area. That's why I love using the 3" so much, because you can get into these little areas, whereas the bigger buffers for kind of like huge sections, more like this deck lid or something like that. So once I get that knocked out, I'm gonna show you a 50-50 here, and this is gonna look spectacular. So let's show you a nice 50-50 on the spoiler here. So these are some really deep scratches. We've got some holograms here as well. And when I pop over here, you'll notice, yes, a lot hazier, but we're in the compounding stage. So that'll clear up with some polish once we're done. But yeah, look at the difference in that. Like I said, very gray. This is a lot clearer, but has a lot of scratches in it. So the refinement will come after we wash the car. You'll notice down here, kind of on the deck lid and underneath the spoiler and the plastic, all of that white compound dust. It's a little tricky. This is always kind of a nasty process, I would say. I mean, you get dust absolutely everywhere, all over the shop, all over the cars, all over myself. So I always rewash the cars here and make sure that we're getting all of that compound dust because it gets in every single nook and cranny. So very, very happy with the results here. We're gonna keep plugging away and make this thing look awesome. Wow, this thing is really looking nice. So I've been working for quite a few hours trying to get these top sections compounded, and look at the results so far. Just absolutely stunning. So like I said, we've got the top sections done, and now we're gonna start working on the lower. So these kind of into the rear quarter here, as well as the door and the lower side sill there, as well as the rear bumper. Now, the nice thing with my shop here is, as you'll see, we're sitting on a set of race ramps, and underneath there is the Bendpack scissor lift. Now, this is not a paid sponsorship from Bendpack. I just have to tell you guys, I bought this with my own money, and easily the best investment I've ever made at the detail shop here. So the nice thing, especially with a sports car like this, I can get it up here without any clearance issues, and the lift, as you can kind of see under there, sits nice and tidy. So vehicles like Lamborghinis or Porsches with extremely low splitters, we can get them up here and not worry about damaging anything, which is super, super important. So let's get it lifted up and start working on the lower sections. Always the coolest view to see these vehicles up on the scissor lift, and just makes my life and actually the details a lot better. So I'm about 6 feet tall, and this right here is my eye line. So imagine the difference in having the ability to work on low sections like down here that often kind of get missed because you're not able to get the right perspective on it and the right line of sight. Man, this thing is just looking amazing. I hope it's coming through on camera as well as it is in person. So I'm gonna start working on these doors right here. I'm gonna throw you guys on a time lapse while we do so. Want to make a quick note because I know for sure I'm going to get this question. Why are the pads blue? So when I originally started, I was using CarPro Ultra Cut mixed with Meguiar's M110, and those are both white compounds. So I just want to make a quick note. This is now, I'm using CarPro Ultra Cut and Meguiar's M100, so that's why it's turned blue. That is actually not paint coming off. I know some of you may have been concerned. Oh, you're pulling colored, paint off of there. Now, if this was single stage paint, we would be turning the pads the color of the actual paint. But I switched up my compound, and the reason doing that is I was kind of chasing some really deep scratches that were in kind of noticeable areas, and my previous combination wasn't working. It was getting me about 90%, but this is getting me just a little bit more. This is extremely heavy cut for microfiber disc with this compound combination, but I mean, the results speak for themselves. They are just looking amazing on the paint. So yeah, just wanted to quickly say that so you guys aren't worried about that and freaking out. So working on the rear bumper here, I just want to show you guys a few more cut marks. So let's start over here. Look at how they did this edge here. And then this cut mark follows us all the way around. Right up top there, you can see right above my fingernail. And then this, if we come over here, look at how they did this. These are all cut marks and not even even. I mean, missed there. Goodness gracious. This is actually a cut mark here too. Look at how it's so deep right there. And then, let me see, this is really deep here. You can pick it up just right here. The camera's having a hard time focusing. It's kind of a weird angle. And then that line follows all the way down here. Okay, so I want to show you guys some more of these gnarly cut marks here. If I pull in, look at how deep that is. And it follows all the way up, literally traces around. Now, if I pull over here, this is just horrible here. So right where my finger is, those are so deep, and it comes around here, not even like sort of straight line at all. Also notice right here, this is a cut mark. The camera's having a hard time focusing, but super, super deep. And let's pull over here where they tried to make this look good, and yeah, did not even sort of. And then this line doesn't even follow the edge. An additional cut mark where they slice this way. And then as we come over here, it just continues and continues all along this poor edge here until we get back. Yeah, this is, I mean, this is just so, so bad. So we are done with the actual compounding first stage of paint correction. Overall, I would say it went very well. I would say we removed probably around 98% of the defects. There were some deeper ones that I decided to leave alone. They were maybe in some inconspicuous area, or they were just physically too deep to safely remove. And obviously, like we were talking about, I'm sitting here looking at all those cut marks on the car. It was super frustrating to see that, and yeah. Luckily, the customer came by. We talked through the kind of situation on this. I always just like to show my clients what I'm seeing, and 99 times out of 100, they don't either see what I'm seeing, or they just, you know, kind of go, okay, let's not worry about it. And in this case, the only thing that would really be the best option would be to repaint this car, and I think that that is just totally insane to deal with the marks in there. Some of them are more visible than others, but yeah, so he's happy overall with where we're at the moment. We definitely still have a lot of work to do in regards of doing the wheels, doing the coating on the paint, polishing the paint, the interior, things like that. Now, I do want to make a quick note because I'm sure this will come up at some point. But a vehicle like this, so I give a quote to any of my clients that I stand by. So this particular car took me quite a bit longer on the paint correction aspect than I would have anticipated. Typically with a car that is wrapped in film, the paint is either paint corrected before or looks pretty darn nice underneath. That's a generalization. With how these guys installed this film, I'm very much not surprised with how bad the paint looked. So we spent about 2 days, give or take a little bit, doing just the paint correction alone. So overall, paint correction went good. We're gonna get this polished. I have a feeling it's gonna be a quick polish on this one. The paint, like we were talking about, was I originally thought kind of hard at the beginning, but as we messed around with the compounds, it's kind of on the medium side, not a ton of haze in this. The black spoiler, tons of haze there, so we'll have to be use a different process there than we do on the actual paint to get the haze out. But we'll dive into that in some of the coming clips. So, all right, we're gonna get this thing lowered and washed. So before I go ahead and wash the vehicle, I'm actually gonna get the interior knocked out. So I already vacuumed the floors and I used a compressed air tool to kind of get all of the major dirt and debris out. Now it looks to me, as I pull you guys back here, that this car was prepped a little bit, as you can see by the vacuum lines, and I'm seeing quite a bit of kind of Armor All-ish conditioner residue on all the seats. Now this appears to be like that before my client took delivery of this vehicle. So I'm going to bring you guys in here. Notice this seat. See how this crack, how much lighter that is? So we've got a lot of transfer on these seats and it's a little bit shiny. It should actually be a nice satin like that. So we're going to work to get all of that shine out. Now, something to be said, I am not a big believer in conditioning leather. What I typically do is I use a light cleaning solution. It's just an interior cleaner, and I just constantly do that. I have never had an issue on any of my cars. I've got cars that sit outside sometimes. I've got different colored interiors, never had an issue. But as I pull you guys in here, so steering wheel is definitely a little shiny. We want to knock that down. Looks a little bit dirty. Coming under here, kind of underneath that gear lever, you'll notice how splotchy the leather is. We definitely want to get that removed and avoid that. But this side bolstering, both on the lower part of the seat and the top part of the seat, really starting to show its wear. Now this car only has 20,000 miles on it, so we want to make sure we preserve this interior as much as possible. You'll notice the door card here, it's got another little bit of shine to it. It's a little splotchy there. And oh, real quick, I do want to show you guys, look at the difference between the driver's seat and the passenger. So the driver's seat obviously showing more wear. That's very, very typical, but we want to make the interior look even and cohesive. Now as I come over here to the passenger seat, it looks pretty clean, right? But as I pull you guys in, look at all like the little stains here and there. So we're going to get those all removed, and with perforated leather, this is super common. There's always little crumbs stuck in every little nook and cranny. But yeah, so we're not going to go crazy on this. This interior is not bad, but we definitely want to strip off that conditioner on there and make it look even. This is just, it's kind of splotchy and almost greasy looking. It's kind of hard to pick up on camera, but yeah, definitely on the center console. So we're going to quickly clean this up. I'll do some 50-50 shots so you guys can see exactly what we're looking at here, and we'll go from there. Look how much better this seat already looks. So I did these two panels. I put a piece of tape down. Look at the difference of that. I spent a probably whopping total of 45 seconds to a minute using these two brushes. The black one there is kind of a medium bristle, but still very soft and safe for leather. And the other one is a cut down kind of wheel lug nut brush, but used specifically only for interiors. And this is just a quick cleanup. Look how nice and supple that leather looks instead of shiny and kind of chalky and nastiness. So we're just going to repeat these steps all over the interior and continue going from there. This driver's seat I may clean one more time after I clean the whole seat. I'll finish the rest of the interior and probably hit it one more time just to make sure any of that kind of transfer or stains on there are fully removed. Okay, so I'm going to show you guys real time here on this door panel what cleaning it looks like. So I've got my two pretty common and very helpful tools, and I've got my interior cleaner. Now, This is CarPro Inside diluted 50/50. No product affiliation, just absolutely love it. And I've got a brand new towel. I actually single use interior towels. I hate mixing them just because interiors are kind of gross, especially when you start getting into kids' cars that have like ketchup packets in the back of seats and all that kind of nastiness that those types of vehicles have in them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to spray this on here. I'm going to get some on the windshield, which is fine. Or on the window, which is fine. Now I want to be mindful, this has speaker grills all around here. I don't want to spray directly into there, nor do I want to spray directly into the like window switches or anything like that. Now I sprayed a little here on my brush, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to come in here and I'm going to agitate this. And you'll notice how this cleaner kind of foams up nicely. It's a super gentle cleaner. I like to dilute this down a little bit so it's not so strong. A good rule of thumb on these here, like on the window switches, is I'm just using that amount of liquid on there. I'm not spraying it directly on there. You'll notice I can go directly over that, and I'm not going to have issues with those getting wet. Now, if you're sitting there dousing it, you're going to have some issues. The armrest here, one of the most trafficked and nasty areas on a car other than the steering wheel and side bolsters, as well as here on the door handle where, you know, your customer, client, or yourself is using that to close the door. So I've got kind of an initial agitation here. Now what I like to do, so this is reasonably soft, right? So I can bend that. This is slightly, but not much more, a little bit stiffer of a bristle. It's not going to damage any leather. Leather like this that is very porous or very tiny porous is very tricky to deal with, and you don't want to get too aggressive into it. So I'm just going to go in here and just get a little more agitation on kind of the high traffic areas. If I notice it's not foaming up, I'm going to spritz that down real quick like that. And I'm just going to come back in, gently rub this. I still want to agitate it, so I'm not going to be super gentle with it, but I definitely want to get in there a little bit. It takes some elbow grease, right? So hit those high traffic areas. Now what I'm going to do is go in with my towel and I'm just going to wipe. And this is going to really where all that residue gets removed. And I want to make sure I wipe every little nook and cranny down, making sure I got all the solution off here. You don't want to leave this on here. You don't want to let it dry because it will kind of spot. You can always get that off, but it's just easier to do so. Now, it must be said that after I do, say, a door panel like this, before the car ever leaves my shop, I'm going to come in with a lighter dilution of that. I normally use like a 4-to-1, 5-to-1 ratio, spray on a towel, quickly wipe this down. But we realistically got about most of the crud and grime and nastiness off this. Now, this stuff doesn't work really good on areas like this, like high brushed aluminum or chrome or any shiny bits like that. It'll make it very streaky. So after I do that initial, I've cleaned it, I'm gonna finish the rest of the car. Before the car goes for delivery, I'm just gonna quickly wipe this all off. But the chrome and all the trim, I'm gonna go back around and clean with probably a waterless wash is what I like to use. And it just looks spectacular. This door panel, I think is pretty darn good. You should be able to feel this and feel no residue. That's why I love this cleaner. I really, really do not like greasy, shiny interior. It just feels gross. You're sliding around the seat, you're touching everything, it's sticky, it's all over your hands. A nice, simple clean like this, in my opinion, is all you need to do on your interior. If you keep up with it, this has a little bit of UV inhibitors in it, and you're not gonna, cause any damage to it. So I like to do this. I mean, again, so say a couple weeks down the road, you notice some splotches here and there. Take your rag here, wipe it down. You're pretty much good to go. So it's not a crazy process for interiors. If you keep up with them, you don't have to constantly clean them all the time, but a quick wipe down here and there, especially on steering wheels, is fantastic. All right, we have the interior done for the first step of cleaning. Look how much nicer this looks. Even this side bolster was really bad with transfer, getting in and out of it. This bolster as well. But we've just got a beautiful satin finish here. It looks how leather should look. The steering wheel cleaned up extremely nice. We went ahead and cleaned everything in here, so even the gear selector and down throughout the instrument panel. Now still a few tidbits to go here. We got to wipe down all the chrome trim, and as well as like the gauge cluster, but this just looks how it should look. Look how nice and satin the whole dash looks. All the vents are properly cleaned. Again, one more time, we will quickly wipe this down before I send this vehicle out of here. So we'll do a 1:4 dilution with the CarPro inside, and I will get all the trim cleaned up, give it one more vacuum. But yeah, just looking spectacular here. That's how leather should look. Very happy with how it's looking. I think we're ready to rock and roll with polishing here. So we've got the car re-washed, and we've got all of the compound taken out of all the little cracks and seams around everywhere. I do an isopropyl alcohol solution on that, and a credit card wrapped around a towel, or just kind of wiping it in general. Over here, I've got the detailing cart set up. So I think we're going to start off with Meguiar's M210 with Rupes yellow foam on the 3-inch and 5-inch machine. This is typically my polishing setup right here. So I'm going to do a little test spot, and we're going to see how that goes. I'm thinking this is going to be the ideal combo. If not, we'll switch it up. But yeah, should be pretty good to get this polished up. Hoping this is not going to be too long of a polishing section. Mostly I should be a couple hours on this, but we'll see once we get into it. Look at how nice this paint is looking. So just finished up the final polish on this, and wow, super nice. This thing just looks night and day difference from when it first came here with all the nasty clear bra to now. So we're actually going to end this video off here. In the next video, we're going to go through protecting the paint, all of the ceramic coatings that we're going to do on this vehicle. So the paint's getting coated. The wheels, we're going to remove, ceramic coat those inside and out, as well as all the black plastic trim around the vehicle to keep those looking nice for years to come. Now the hope is that we can pull this thing outside in the next video. It's a super gloomy and rainy day, but I want to show you guys how much better the paint looks out in the natural sunlight. If that doesn't happen, we can definitely pull in the scan grips and hopefully get some good video on that. But stay tuned for the next video. We're going to get this thing, all the final details absolutely dialed in, looking perfect. So thank you so much for joining us on another Out of Spec Detailing. We'll see you in part 3.